Hello everyone and welcome to another video on WooEnglish and another interesting story. Today's story came to me as I was watching, like millions of other people around the world, what's unfolding in the Middle East, the crisis, the war, the deaths and everything that's going on right now. And while I was watching, I started thinking about a very interesting topic, which is armies and militaries, soldiers that fight and take part in different wars. And then I remembered a very interesting type of armies that exists today in a lot of countries. These are not trained professional soldiers, but rather they are civilians that decide to fight for a certain cause. We call them in English militias. So a militia is a group of civilians, normal people like me and you, who decide to take part in a war and participate in a war for a cause they believe in. But the militia I want to talk to you about today, or that you are going to listen to the story of, is not a militia that we have today, but a militia that existed 900 years ago. You heard it correctly, almost 1,000 years ago. So there existed militias at the time. And if you can believe me, this story takes place, ironically enough, in modern day Iran. So the story that we are going to listen to today is a story of a militia that is called the Hashashin. This is an Arabic word that translates to something like the consumers of weed or the consumers of hashish. And in English, or this word actually gave us an English word that I'm sure you know, assassin. An assassin is a person who takes out, who kills a political figure. For example, JFK, a former president of the United States, was killed by an assassin. And this word assassin came from the word of the militia we are going to listen to the story of today. So you can see how history is connected. Like a lot of things that happened back 1,000 years ago are linked to things that happened like very recently, and also things unfolding right in front of our eyes. So before I let you enjoy and learn about the story of the assassins, I would love for you to do me a favor and click that subscribe button if this is your first time finding this channel. This is a channel that specializes in teaching you English through stories, so I would appreciate it if you can subscribe to it. Of course, after you subscribe, make sure to activate that bell icon so that you won't miss any stories that we share. Another thing, of course, if you have already subscribed or already a subscriber, make sure to click the thumbs up because that helps push the video for new people that may need to improve their English. And of course, if you have a friend, if you have a family member who is working on their English, make sure to recommend our channel to them. To achieve maximum benefit from this story, which is a B1 story, by the way, which means that it's more suitable for intermediates. Make sure to do three things. First, try to listen to it just to get used to the flow of English. Number two, take notes of any new vocabulary, new words that you may hear. And finally, make sure to participate in the quiz that we always post in the first comment under our video. So without further ado, I would love to let you go and enjoy this very interesting story of the assassins.
Chapter 1. The Shadow That Never Disappeared. Turn on the news today. Any channel, any language. Watch carefully. Something is happening in the Middle East. It has been happening for a long time. But most people do not understand where it comes from. In Lebanon, there is a group called Hezbollah. It has fighters. It has weapons. It has political power. In Yemen, there are the Houthis, a group that many people had never heard of a few years ago. Now, Their drones and missiles reach ships in the Red Sea. They disrupt trade routes that the entire world depends on. In Iraq, there are armed groups too, militias. Some of them are stronger than parts of the Iraqi army itself. These groups are all connected to Iran. They do not wear the uniform of the Iranian army. They do not take direct orders from a general in Tehran. They have their own leaders, their own names, their own flags, but the connection is there. Money flows from Iran to these groups. Weapons arrive through hidden routes. Training is provided by experienced military advisors. Everyone knows it. Governments know it. Intelligence agencies know it. Journalists know it. These groups are small compared to the countries around them. They do not have air forces. They do not have navies. But they create enormous pressure. A drone from Yemen can stop an oil tanker. A rocket from Lebanon can force millions of people into shelters. A militia in Iraq can change the plans of the most powerful military in the world. This is strange when you think about it. These are not countries. They are groups. They do not have presidents or parliaments. They do not sit at the United Nations. But their actions are felt in Washington, London, and Beijing. How is this possible? How can small groups have so much influence? The answer is not new. This strategy, using small, loyal groups instead of a large army, is very old. In fact, it was born in the same land, the same mountains, the same country. Iran. More than 900 years ago, in the high mountains of northern Iran, a man sat in a stone room inside a fortress. The room was simple. Stone walls. A few books. A small window that looked out over a valley so deep that clouds sometimes passed below it. He rarely went outside. He read books. He wrote letters. He gave orders. From that one room, he built one of the most feared organizations in history. His name was Hassan al-Sabbah. His followers became known to the world as the Assassins. They did not have thousands of soldiers. They did not have cavalry or siege weapons. But they made sultans afraid to sleep. They made generals change their travel routes. They changed the politics of the entire Middle East. Not with battles, with patience, with secrecy, with a single knife at the right moment. How did one man, in one castle, on one mountain, create so much fear? That is the story we are about to tell. A story that starts in the mountains of Iran and never really ends. Chapter 2. The Man on the Mountain. Hassan al-Sabbah was born around the year 1050 in Persia, the land we now call Iran. As a young man, he was intelligent, curious, hungry for knowledge. He studied religion deeply. He studied science and philosophy. He asked questions that others were afraid to ask. As a young man, he traveled to Egypt. At that time, Egypt was the center of a powerful empire, the Fatimid Caliphate. Cairo was a city of learning, great libraries, famous scholars. Hassan studied there for years. He walked through the markets of Cairo. He sat in lecture halls. He watched how the Fatimid leaders controlled a vast empire, not just with soldiers, but with ideas, with loyalty, with networks of people who believed in the same vision. He learned about politics and power, about how ideas can move thousands of people, about how a small group with a clear vision can change history. When he returned to Persia, he was a different man. He had a plan. But his plan was not like the plans of other ambitious men. He did not want to raise a large army. He did not want to conquer cities. He wanted something new, a network, a hidden structure, small in number, but impossible to destroy. In the year 1090, Hassan did something extraordinary. He took control of a mountain fortress called Alamut. The name means eagle's nest. And it was a perfect name. The castle sat high in the Alborz mountains, surrounded by steep cliffs and narrow valleys. The air was thin. The paths were dangerous. Below the castle, a river ran through a deep valley. The only way up was a narrow path that twisted through the rocks. One man with a sword could hold that path against 20. A large army could not easily climb there. Horses could not pass. Heavy weapons could not be carried up the mountain. But a small group of determined men could defend it against thousands. From this castle, Hassan began to build his organization. He chose followers carefully, not just anyone. He wanted people who were educated, patient, loyal beyond question, people who could wait months, even years, for a single mission. Now, it is very important to understand something here. Hassan belonged to a branch of Islam called the Ismailis, specifically a group called the Nizari Ismailis. But the Ismaili faith is a rich, diverse, and peaceful tradition. It exists today, with millions of followers around the world, led by the Aga Khan. Hassan's political movement was something separate. It used religious identity, yes, but its goals were about power, about survival, about fighting the Seljuk Empire, which controlled most of the region and wanted to destroy groups like his. Hassan was not a religious teacher who became violent. He was a political strategist who used every tool available to him, including fear. For more than 30 years, Hassan lived in Alamut. Some historians say he left his room only twice in his final decades. He read, he planned, he sent messages through his network. And from that one room, on that one mountain, he controlled an organization that the greatest empire in the Middle East could not stop. Chapter 3. A knife instead of an army.
Now that we have listened to chapter 1 and chapter 2, let's take a breath and take a little break to just try and understand what we have gone through. So you have listened to the first 2 chapters of the story of the assassins as we have explained in the beginning. Maybe you have encountered some new words in the first 2 chapters. I would love for you to take a little second, go down to the comment section, write for me 2 words in a sentence that you learned from the first chapter. Maybe the first or the new words that you have learned are fortress. A fortress is a building where military soldiers try to hide to protect their land. For example, maybe another word is a militia, which we explained in the beginning. Maybe it's a loyal person. So a lot of words, maybe a lot of words have been introduced to you through the first two chapters, and I would love to see what is the word that you have just seen or learned for the first time in the comment section. Of course, you may be wondering how the story will end, how will it unfold, and this is why I will let you go and enjoy chapter number 3. But before we do so, make sure please to click that like button to help push this video, as I said before, up and maybe be recommended to new viewers. So let's go to chapter number 3.
The Seljuk Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the world at that time. It controlled a huge area, from modern Turkey to the borders of China. Its sultans lived in great palaces. Its armies numbered in the tens of thousands. It had a professional army, experienced generals, rich cities full of merchants and scholars, strong walls built to last centuries. Hassan al-Sabbah could not fight this empire in open battle. His followers were few. His resources were limited. A direct war would end in immediate defeat. So he chose a completely different path. One man, one target, one knife. Instead of fighting an army of 10,000 soldiers, remove the person who commands them. Instead of attacking a city, remove the leader who controls it. When the head falls, the body becomes confused. This was the strategy of the assassins. The first and most famous example happened in the year 1092. Nizam al-Mulk was the Grand Vizier of the Seljuk Empire. The Vizier was not a king, but in many ways he was more powerful than the Sultan himself. He managed the empire's money. He controlled the army. He made political decisions that affected millions of people. One evening, as Nizam al-Mulk traveled between cities, a man approached him. The man was dressed as a Sufi, a religious traveler. He looked harmless, ordinary. No one stopped him. In one quick moment, the man attacked. Nizam al-Mulk fell. The most powerful official in the largest empire in the Middle East was dead, killed not by an army, not by a rival king, by one man, with one knife, in one moment. The Seljuk Empire was shocked, not just because of the death. Powerful men die in every century, but because of the message behind it. Nobody is safe, not the richest man in the empire, not the most protected leader, not the person surrounded by guards and soldiers. If Hassan's followers could reach the Grand Vizier, they could reach anyone. This was the true weapon, not the blade. The fear that came after it. After each killing, the assassins often did not run. They did not try to escape. Many waited calmly to be captured. Some accepted death on the spot. This made the fear even deeper. These were not criminals looking for money. These were not desperate men. They were calm, trained, completely committed. A person who does not fear death cannot be stopped by threats. Over the next decades, many powerful figures across the Middle East were killed in this way. Military commanders who thought they were safe inside their tents. religious leaders who opposed Hassan and spoke against him publicly, governors of cities who tried to destroy the Ismaili communities, even some crusader knights from Europe who had come to fight in the Holy Land. One famous story says that Saladin, the great Muslim general who fought the Crusaders, once woke up to find a poisoned dagger on his pillow. A message from the assassins, not a killing, a warning. Even Saladin, one of the most powerful men alive, understood the message. He changed his plans. The knife on the pillow was enough. The message was always the same. You do not need 10,000 soldiers to change politics. You need one person, in the right place, at the right time, with the right training. This was a revolutionary idea. In that age, power meant armies. Power meant numbers. Hassan al-Sabbah showed the world a different truth. Power can also mean precision. One well-placed action can achieve more than 1,000 soldiers on a battlefield. Empires understood this, but they could not stop it. Because you cannot build a wall against an idea. You cannot send an army against patience. And this idea, once it was born, never left the world. Chapter 4. The Castle Network. Alamut was not the only fortress. Over the decades, Hassan and his followers built, captured, or took control of dozens of castles. Some were in the mountains of Iran. Others were in Syria, in the hills near the Mediterranean coast. Each castle was chosen for the same reasons: high ground, narrow approaches, natural defenses that made attack extremely difficult. A small group of 50 men in the right mountain position could hold back an army of 5,000. Geography was their greatest ally. But these castles were not just military bases. This is something that many people do not know. Inside these fortresses, complete communities existed. There were libraries. Hassan al-Sabbah believed deeply in knowledge. He collected books on science, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and religion. Some historians say the library at Alamut was one of the finest collections in the entire Middle East. There were gardens built into the mountain terraces, farms where people grew food, schools where children learned to read and write, workshops where craftsmen made tools and weapons. Families lived in these castles. Children were born there. Weddings were celebrated. People grew old and died within those walls. Life inside Alamut was not dark or violent. It was organized, structured. People had roles. Farmers woke early. Teachers prepared lessons. Craftsmen worked with metal and wood. Guards watched the mountain paths. It was a small world, but it was complete. The assassins were not just a group of killers hiding in mountains. They were a society. A small, self-sufficient society that existed in some of the most difficult geography on Earth. The castle network also served another purpose: communication. In an age before phones, before telegraphs, before any modern technology, the assassins built a system of communication that connected their fortresses across vast distances. Messages could travel from one fortress to another, across hundreds of kilometers. Riders on fast horses carried coded messages through mountain passes. Signals could be sent from tower to tower. If something important happened in Baghdad, the information could reach Alamut in a matter of days. When a mission was planned, the instructions moved through the network with careful precision. Each castle knew its role. Each person understood the system. This network lasted for more than 160 years, from 1090 until 1256. Through different leaders after Hassan's death, through wars and periods of peace, through drought, famine, and times of wealth. It survived because it was built to survive, not through size or force, but through intelligence, loyalty, and the power of geography, until something came that no mountain could stop. Chapter 5. The Legend and the Lie. Before we reach the fall of the castles, there is something important we must discuss. The name itself. Assassin. This word exists in English, French, Italian, and many other languages today. It means a person who kills a powerful figure for political reasons. But where did this word come from? The answer leads us to one of history's most famous and most dangerous lies. In the 13th century, a traveler from Venice visited the East. His name was Marco Polo. He wrote a famous book about his journeys. In that book, he described many things he saw, but he also wrote about things he only heard from others. One of those stories was about the followers of Hassan al-Sabbah. According to Marco Polo, Hassan used a special drug, hashish, to control his men. The story goes like this. Hassan built a secret garden inside the mountains. A beautiful garden hidden from the world. It had fruit trees, clear water, and every pleasure a person could imagine. Young followers were given hashish. While they were under the effect of the drug, they were carried into this garden. When they woke up, they believed they were in paradise. Then Hassan told them, "Complete your mission, and you will return to this paradise forever." And so, according to the story, these young men went out into the world ready to die. Not because of loyalty or training, but because of a drug and a garden. This is where the name hashishin comes from. And from hashishin, the English word assassin. It is a wonderful story, easy to remember, easy to tell at dinner. But most modern historians agree it is almost certainly not true. There is no archaeological evidence of a secret garden at Alamut. There is no evidence from the period that Hassan used drugs on his followers. Marco Polo himself never visited Alamut. The castle had already been destroyed before he was even born. He never met any of Hassan's followers. He heard this story from other people, most likely from enemies of the Ismailis, people who had every reason to make them look foolish and dangerous. And this is the important lesson. When a group is feared, stories grow around it. Enemies create myths to make their opponents seem less human, less intelligent, less brave. If your enemy is just a drugged criminal in a fantasy garden, then he is not a real warrior. He is not worthy of respect. He is easy to hate. The Seljuks and the Crusaders both had strong reasons to spread this kind of story. But the truth was different. Hassan's followers were educated men. They studied languages. They learned the customs and habits of their targets. They could live for months in a city, pretending to be merchants or scholars, waiting patiently for the right moment. This is not the behavior of men under the effect of drugs. This is discipline, training, intelligence. Today, historians work carefully to separate the legend from the reality. They study original Arabic and Persian texts instead of European travelers' tales. And slowly, a more accurate picture appears. Not of drugged killers in a paradise garden, but of a highly organized political movement that survived against enormous pressure for more than a century and a half. The word assassin stayed in our languages. But the truth behind it is very different from what most people believe. And this is a lesson that goes beyond history. Not everything that is repeated is true, and the loudest story is not always the most honest one. The next time you hear a story about an enemy, any enemy, ask yourself a question. Who told this story first? And why? The answer might change everything you think you know. Chapter 6. The Day the Mountains Fell. For more than 160 years, the castles of the assassins stood strong. No army could take them. The Seljuks tried many times. They sent soldiers into the mountains. They laid sieges that lasted months. They failed. The geography was too strong. The defenders were too committed. The assassins survived wars, political changes, and the deaths of their own leaders. After Hassan al-Sabbah died in 1124, new leaders continued his work. The network adapted. It grew. It changed when it needed to change. But in the middle of the 13th century, something new appeared from the east. Something that no strategy could stop. No mountain could protect against. No knife could prevent. The Mongols. Under Genghis Khan, and later his grandsons, the Mongol Empire became the largest land empire in human history. Their armies moved with speed that no one had seen before. They conquered lands faster than news could travel. Cities that had never been attacked in centuries fell in days. They destroyed cities that had stood for centuries. Baghdad, the greatest city in the Islamic world, was burned to the ground in 1258. The Mongols killed so many people that the river, they say, ran black with ink from the destroyed books and red with blood. Libraries were thrown into the water. Scholars were killed in the streets. The destruction was total. But before Baghdad, there was Alamut. In 1256, a Mongol general named Hulagu Khan marched toward the assassin castles. He brought a massive force. Tens of thousands of soldiers, siege engineers from China, catapults that could throw enormous stones. The last leader of the assassins at Alamut was a young man named Rukn al-Din Kursha. He was not like the earlier leaders. He was young, uncertain. Faced with the largest army in the world, he made a decision. He surrendered. Some say he hoped the Mongols would show mercy. Some say he had no choice. His own people were divided. Some wanted to fight to the death. Others wanted to live. The gates of Alamut were opened. For the first time in 166 years, an enemy army walked through those gates. The Mongols entered. They destroyed much of the famous library. Thousands of books on science, philosophy, astronomy, and mathematics were lost forever. One scholar who was with the Mongol army, a man named Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, managed to save some books before the destruction. But most were gone, centuries of knowledge. Gone in days, books that could have taught us about science, astronomy, and philosophy from a world we know very little about. A loss that historians still feel today. The other castles fell one by one. Some surrendered peacefully. Some fought and were destroyed completely. By the end of 1256, the castle network was finished. Rukn al-Din himself was killed shortly after his surrender. The Mongols did not keep their promises. The physical structure of the assassins was gone. The castles became ruins. The libraries became ash. The organization was broken. But here is the question that matters most. Did the idea die with the castles? The buildings fell. The books burned. The network ended. But the concept that a small, committed group can challenge a much larger power through precision, patience, and psychology, that concept did not fall with the stones of Alamut. It survived. It traveled through centuries. It appeared in different places, in different languages, under different names. Because ideas are not made of stone. They do not need walls. They do not need libraries. They do not need castles on mountains. They only need people who believe in them. And there are always people who believe. Chapter 7. The Oldest Idea in the New World. 900 years have passed since Hassan al-Sabbah climbed to Alamut. The castle is ruins now. Tourists hike to the site. They take photographs of the valley below. They stand where the library once was and try to imagine what was lost. But the idea that was born on that mountain is not in a museum. It is not behind glass. It is alive. It is active today. It has simply changed its tools. In the modern Middle East, several groups follow a similar strategic principle. Not the same organization, not the same religion, not the same specific goals, but the same core logic. Small groups, deep loyalty, committed members, working across borders, creating pressure far beyond their actual size. In Lebanon, Hezbollah operates as both a political party and a military force. It has social services, hospitals, and schools. It also has rockets that can reach major cities. A group smaller than many city police forces has the ability to change the military plans of entire nations. In Yemen, the Houthis have shown what a small, determined group can do with modern technology. Their drones and missiles have disrupted shipping lanes in the Red Sea, one of the most important trade routes in the world. Major shipping companies have changed their routes. Ships that normally pass through the Suez Canal now travel around Africa. The extra journey adds weeks and costs millions of dollars. Insurance costs have risen dramatically. The price of goods has increased in countries far from Yemen. The global economy has felt the effect. All from a group that most people could not find on a map 5 years ago. All from a group with no air force, no navy, and no seat at any international table. In Iraq, various armed groups influence politics, security, and daily life across the country. These groups all have connections to Iran, not through drugs or secret gardens, through shared interests, through funding and training, through a strategic relationship that benefits both sides. Iran today does not send its own army to fight in Lebanon, Yemen, or Iraq. It does not need to. It supports groups that act on its behalf, groups that are local, that know the land, that have deep roots in their communities. This approach has a name in modern military thinking. It is called asymmetric warfare. The idea that a weaker side can fight a stronger side, not by matching its power, but by using different rules, different methods, different timelines. The stronger side wants a quick, clear battle. The weaker side wants a long, slow, confusing struggle. The stronger side uses technology and numbers. The weaker side uses patience and position. This is exactly what Hassan al-Sabbah understood 900 years ago. This is the oldest strategy in the book. Do not fight the enemy directly when they are stronger than you. Use small, loyal, committed groups. Place them in the right positions. Give them the right tools. And let them create pressure that changes the decisions of much larger powers. Hassan al-Sabbah would recognize this approach immediately. The tools have changed completely. Drones instead of daggers. Encrypted phones instead of mountain messengers. Social media instead of whispered rumors in a market. Missiles instead of a hidden knife. But the principle underneath is exactly the same. You do not need to be the biggest power in the room. You need to be the most precise, the most patient, the most willing to act when others are still thinking. This is not a judgment. It is an observation. History does not repeat exactly, but it echoes. The mountains of Alamut echo in the hills of southern Lebanon, in the deserts of Yemen, in the streets of Baghdad, in every place where a small group refuses to accept the power of a larger one. In every place where patience replaces force, where precision replaces numbers. The world has changed enormously since the year 1090. Technology has transformed everything. Borders have been drawn and redrawn. Languages have mixed. Empires have risen and fallen. But human strategy has not changed as much as we like to think. The powerful still use large armies. The outnumbered still use precision and patience, and fear, calculated, targeted, carefully designed fear, remains one of the most powerful tools in politics and war. As you listen to the news tonight, remember this story. The tactics you see are not new. They were tested 900 years ago. on a mountain in Iran by a man who never left his room. And the question that remains after 9 centuries is the same question that Seljuk sultans ask themselves in the darkness of the night. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you defeat an idea that does not need an army? The world has still not found a satisfying answer, and perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. Power is not always about size. Sometimes it is about will, about patience, about knowing exactly where to apply pressure. Hassan al-Sabbah understood this before anyone else. And 900 years later, the world is still learning the same lesson. The shadow that was born on a mountain in 1090 has never truly disappeared. It only changed shape. And somewhere tonight, in a room you will never see, someone is reading, planning, waiting, just like a man in a stone room once did, 900 years ago, high above the clouds.
And with this, we come to the end of the video of a very strange and ancient militant group called in Arabic the Hashashin, and in English they gave us the word assassins, which, as we have seen, refers to a person, a killer, who kills or takes out a public figure. I hope you have benefited from the video in 2 ways. I hope you have learned new ideas about ancient groups that lived and learned new information about the world and about history. And second, I hope you have benefited by improving your English through learning new words related to the theme of the assassins. Some of the words we have introduced through today's stories were like fortress, militant, surrender, a siege, and also myth and loyalty. These are all words related to the story, and this is our strategy at WooEnglish. We teach you English, we teach you vocabulary, we teach you even grammar through a context, and most of the time a very interesting context, like today's story. I hope you have benefited, and as I said, I hope you will go now, after finishing the story, go back or go down to the comment section and try to answer the quiz that we left for you there. This quiz, or these quizzes that we always leave under our videos, help you see and help you test if and whether you have understood the video that you have just listened to. Of course, this is a kind reminder, if you liked the story, show us that by clicking the like button and also by going to our website www.wooenglish.com to find the PDF version. You will find a book version that you can keep with you on your phone, download it for free, absolutely at no charge. Download it on your phone and keep it with you. Maybe you would love to read it again one more time. Maybe you would love to go into more depth. Maybe you would love to take more notes on your PDF version. Maybe print it if you would love to. You are free to do whatever you like with the PDFs that we provide on our website. So you will find the story of the assassins and also a lot of other stories that we have previously shared on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe if this has been your first time watching a video on our channel. Until we meet another time in another video and another story, take care of yourselves and see you in the next video.